Yep.
Okay, who out there has touched a hot stove as a child? Did you get burned? If you did you deliberately touch that hot stove again? Probably not. Now, we've all seen kids acting bad in public, teenagers acting rude and unruly to their parents and other people out in public. Me personally, sometimes I do get angry at the teenagers because they should know better. I don't necessarily get angry at the small children for it. I do, however, get angry at their parents. But more than that, I feel embarrassed for their parents because their kids shouldn't be acting like that while they're out in public. I'm able and fortunate enough to look back at my own two kids and enjoy the fact that I can go out and have a meal or shop or whatever the case with my kids because my kids are civilized. This is why I'm speaking about corporal punishment today. Now, as a parent of two beautiful, well-behaved kids and firm believer in physical discipline, the purpose of my speech is to persuade everyone that corporal punishment is necessary. Everyone should know children need discipline to become better adults. Corporal punishment and physical discipline are required to ensure these children do become better adults, and because that's the ultimate goal when you have children, is that they become successful in life. They grow up, they leave, they don't come back, and they are successful. So, 3 things I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about a phrase I heard a long time ago called pain retains. Secondly, I'm going to talk about positive reinforcement with physical discipline, and then I'll talk about the long-term effects. All right, pain retains. This is a phrase I hold true to heart. I heard this a long time ago, and it's a phrase I use at home with my kids. Doing what you're not supposed to do, I will ensure it is not done again, and I will ensure it's not done with some form of physical discipline. It's not out of anger, it's to teach a lesson. Because that's what you do when you're teaching a lesson to kids, is you're causing a relationship of right and wrong. So, there is a legal definition of corporal punishment. Now, there's a website out there called uhain.org saying a punishment, corporal punishment is a punishment for some violation of conduct which involves the infliction of pain on or harm to the body, i.e. a spanking, smacking, you name it, anything that involves the infliction of pain on or harm to the body. Now, it's not to be confused with capital punishment, which is sentenced to death for a crime. We're not sentencing kids to crime for talking back or whatnot. So there is a big difference between the two. Now, corporal punishment is not abuse. Me personally, I don't condone abuse. Abuse to kids is completely wrong. It's like bullying to me, taking advantage of somebody that is weaker than you, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. There's other arguments out there that corporal punishment is abuse or can lead to abuse, but I think that's just an excuse for some parents who don't want to discipline their kids. So, corporal punishment and physical discipline are meant to enforce rules, hence the phrase I use called pain retains. This is why, because you'll remember that it hurt when you did it and you're not going to do it again. So, according to the AAFP.org, which is the American Association of Family Physicians, discipline should be instructive, age appropriate, should include positive reinforcement for good behavior. Punishment is only one aspect of discipline, and in order to be effective, it must be prompt, consistent, and fair. Now, by prompt, consistent, and fair, it's on the spot. I'm not going to punish a kid for something he does today and then punish him 3 days from now when he has no idea of what he did wrong. So punishment has to be on the spot, and it has to fit whatever offense that child made. So my personal approach, if you knock him down, pick him up. There's no sense in punishing a child for something he did and not trying to rebuild him back up so he's still got that same, outgoingness that he had prior to getting spanked. So if you discipline your kids, just ensure they know what the issue was and put them in the right direction. They need to be built back up. Even adults, as we all know, need reinforcement sometimes. So, all children do not have a higher learning. Kids do not wake up on their own and take themselves to school. They don't come home and do their homework because they know they need a better education. Because with a better education, they could get a better job to support themselves and their family. They just don't understand this. Kids do not have that higher learning. Most adults take years to understand this, so I find it highly unlikely that a child has that higher learning to understand any of that. So, long-term effects. They need to be affected and effected. There is a difference. Affected is to influence something. It's an action. A regular day-to-day discipline, it's here and it's now. Effected is the end result that was accomplished or to directly cause something. Example, spanking affected the child who was crying, but the lifelong lesson was the effect of what happened. You understand?
Yes.
Good. So, there's another website out there called idebate.org, and there's some studies out there that show that some teachers have said that behavior and test scores have declined since banning corporal punishment in schools. Why? Because kids think that they could get away with anything while they're in there, and they know that that teacher cannot touch them, which shouldn't be the case. They shouldn't fear that teacher, but they should still respect them. And when they take that aspect out of it, some of those kids lose that respect. And disciplined children are not repeat offenders. They're not going to keep doing the same thing over again if they're going to be disciplined for it every time. It's just not how people work. It's not how our brains function. So, what happens to an adult when they commit crimes? They go to jail, lose their job, lose money, can't take care of their family, which is another reason to ensure kids learn at a young age not to do those things. That discipline they receive is so they're not out doing anything illegal just because they can. And there's nothing worse than seeing a young 18-year-old kid doing a jail sentence and potentially ruining their life because they lack discipline they should have gotten at a younger age. They need to follow through with these kids through their teenage years to make it even more effective. So, in conclusion, the purpose was to convince everyone of the importance of corporal punishment. Everyone should know that children need discipline in their lives. There are many times that corporal punishment and physical discipline are required to ensure these children are shaped into better adults. Any kind of credentials I have for teaching this class, I have researched a little bit, and I do have 2 well-behaved, civilized children of my own. So, I asked earlier in my speech if any of you had ever seen children acting badly in public or young teenagers that are disrespectful and rude. Now you know a little physical discipline and some punishment for them would have benefited them in the long run. So, lastly, I'll finish with this. I find it ironic, and with the vast majority of a country that's trying to stay away from corporal punishment or any physical discipline to their kids, they're having a plethora of bullying cases across the nation in all of its schools. Now, so you tell me, is corporal punishment necessary or not? Cut.
North Carolina has capital punishment.